on my personal page in just a second. And we are live. Hey, guys, it's Ted Bogert with The Ted Show. I need a theme song. I have some people working on that, so we're going to figure that out in a little bit. But enough about me. I'm very excited to have this young lady on the show, Liliana Pickens. She is, let's talk about leadership through crisis. And I think we can all kind of relate to that, what's been going on in our world. And it's not just COVID, it's racial, it's housing, there's so many things that we're all trying to figure out. And so we need strong leadership. Enough about me. Welcome, Liliana.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that you think I'm young.
No, I love that you agreed to come on. I love what you're doing. I think I read something that you all were working on in your specific office, and that kind of prompted me to follow back up. We could all use some hope and some tools to get through what we've been getting through or trying to get through. So tell us a little bit about you before we get into the topic. Give us a little background on Liliana.
Awesome. So who am I? I am first and foremost a mom of 3 boys. Every time I say boys, I have to correct myself because my oldest is 21 and I don't think they're boys anymore. You know, they're almost
You
men.
have a 21-year-old.
I do. 21, 18, and 15. All boys. It's a lot of fun. Yes. I've been married for 20 years and I've been in real estate for 3 years. I am also a runner. I run marathons. That's what I do for fun. I know it's a little crazy. I've been a runner for 11 years. It's going to be 11 years next year.
Why running? What does it do? Is the running, is that where you get your peace of mind, where you kind of have time to think? What is it about running that you love?
So I started running because a friend inspired me to run. And I saw her crossing the finish line at a marathon and said, I need to do that. I need to know how that feels. There was something in her face and everything. It was just amazing. Of course, later, a few years later, I found out it is amazing and very, very exhausting. And I feel like I found myself through running, right? Like I found my strengths through running. I found that I was very disciplined, and when I put my mind into something, I can totally accomplish it. Running taught me how to dream and make the dreams come true, and build the plans and build structure around everything. So all I've learned in my running world, I also bring obviously into my business world and my personal world, because running is life for me, and it definitely helps me to stay put.
You know what I love? I love when someone has a passion like that, and you not only a passion, but I can tell it's sort of like a grounding factor for you. I should just look at tapes of you, since I'll have a cocktail in my hand and watch you, and maybe I will get some of that via osmosis. But I love the fact most people I know who are runners say that once you're in it, once you're in the groove, there's nothing like it. So I love that.
There's strength through pain, right? I feel that's the biggest lesson that running has taught me. That even when you think you cannot go one more step and you feel like you're literally dying, you can go one more step and you are so not dying. You are probably the most alive you've ever been. And I think that has helped me deal with all the crises, right, that have been thrown at me, not just in my professional life, but also in my personal life, because no one has a perfect life.
We don't. And I think a lot of times we get people, when people see the show, people will comment to me later, gosh, that person had it all together. And I'm like, well, then you missed the point of the show. I want to show how we don't have it all together, but what we're doing to try to figure out how to handle the things, which brings me to the topic. Well, really quick though, I want to give a plug. You are in real estate. Tell me a little bit about that. And you've only been in real estate for 3 years. Is that what I heard you say, or is that wrong?
Yeah. I've been in real estate for 3 years. I started with Keller Williams. Back when I started real estate, that was my only choice. People ask me that all the time. Did you ever contemplate anyone else? And my answer is always no. Mainly because the person that suckered me into real estate was with Keller Williams. And second of all, because their values just align with mine. So it's the perfect place for me, right? It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But it's 100% for me. I started as an agent, as a buyer's agent in a team. And today I lead the office in Hunters Creek, proudly. So
amazing.
So today my team is 127 agents and 3 staff members.
What's it like being, and Ogla just popped on and said hi.
Hi, Ogla.
Hi, Melanie. Hey, Kelly. What's it like in this? What was it like as COVID starts to crunch in on us, and late March, it all really becomes a reality that we're going to be quarantined. What's it been like? Because that's really one of the crises that happened that we talk about in the topic. That was a crisis, right? You had to pivot, you had to maneuver, you had to do things quickly. What did you all do? How did you manage to make the shift and still be productive?
I love this question, Ted, because I started this position, end of March, and 2 days later I had to close the office and had to create relationships with a new team virtually. So the only way my team knows me is how it's through a crisis, right? Which I think was the best thing that could have happened to me, because they knew that they could rely on me and use me as their support through this time. So one of the first things that we did was immediately go into our agents' financials. And we were starting to ask questions about how much money are you spending? Are you seeing return on investment? Is this necessary, or is this a luxury? And we went through this not only on their business side, on leads and whatnot, but also on their personal life. Like, is Disney Plus really, really important? I lost that battle at my house. Apparently Disney Plus is important. And I was very happy when Hamilton said that they were going to come, and I was like, oh my God, thank God we didn't cancel that. And we had to get our agents to be the most profitable as quick as possible, right? And that was cutting expenses. So the first exercise was to cut expenses for them. We immediately plugged into coaching that we are so lucky to have. Actually, it's open to everyone. It's every morning at 8 o'clock from 8 to 8:20. One of our coaches, our national coaches, goes on his Facebook page and he coaches us for free for 20 minutes. Nice. So it was a lot of mindset, and mainly help them focus on the things that they could control at the moment. Then April rolls around and, schools are not going back. And now you have this whole problem of kids at home, parents need to work. How do you lead generate when the 5-year-old, is asking for food or TV or whatever it is, or you have to sit down and explain geometry, while you're working. I mean, this was the reality of our agents, as I'm sure it was the reality of most people watching, quite possibly.
Right.
So as a leadership team, we had to look at what was happening and just say, okay, who needs a tailored schedule? And for weeks, we were sitting down with people, tailoring down schedules just for them. Because what lead generation looks like to someone like me, it's totally different. My lights go off. It's totally different than what it looks like to someone that has a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old at home. So we had to be very, very intentional and specific and pivot very quickly, help them pivot, right? If I don't have their backs, or if our leadership team doesn't have our agents back, then what's the point of them being here?
Well, I agree. I mean, I think that's why your topic is so important. Leadership really shows whether it can shine or not when there is a crisis, when Absolutely. We're facing so many different challenges. I mean, it started with COVID. That was just turned everyone's world upside down. And my leaders, I'm so blessed to work with leaders who just shifted and pivoted immediately, and it felt like there was no bump in the road. But I have seen alleged leaders in other companies or other industries, and their leadership isn't so good, and you can tell the morale is bad, the productivity is bad, and that impacts all of us in our community in some way.
I'm a people person, and I love the energy of people. So for me, it has been a big challenge to do this virtually, but we have built amazing virtual classes and virtual masterminds where they have been, our agents have been very, very engaged in. And even though now we're in our office, we're still giving classes in the office, but most of them, they're still not comfortable coming out, but they're still plugged in and engaged because now they're connected. Now we're a few months later, their businesses are soaring. I mean, we closed in July. We are bound to close twice as many deals as we did in June, which is amazing.
How does that happen? Let's give them a little if you can throw one or two secrets in there. And I'm sure that they're just real natural secrets because there really is no secret anymore. What do you do different, though? I think you'll have people go, gosh, my office like that. What are you doing differently with your agents that you think is allowing them or helping them reach those numbers?
It's accountability, and it's keeping them focused on task and time on task. If they were talking to 20 people a day, they need to be talking to 40, 60 people a day today. They need to triple down on their activities in order for them to see what's going to happen, the fruit of their labor 60 to 90 days later, right? So it's high accountability. We're on the phone with our agents. It takes us like 6 weeks to go through the whole roster. So we've been on the phone with all of them for, 2 or 3 times already. And again, we stay very connected through Facebook. We have our own Facebook group page, which is too active sometimes, but that's how we're communicating. That's how we have to communicate. We have brought classes that are going to help them adapt to not just understanding the market of today, but also understand the market that's coming. Because they need to start getting empowered with that. On our last team meeting of the month, we have 2 team meetings a month. And on our last team meeting, we're constantly discussing the market. We take the statistics from the MLS and we put them out there and we ask, what do you see? What are the trends? What do you see happening? If someone comes and tells you, oh, I'm going to wait to buy or I'm going to wait to sell, how do you battle that objection? And we practice this.
You're giving them real tools. You're giving them real tools to address these things. I think that's so important. I want to talk a little bit about the market because I think there are people who are in our industry who don't even like to talk about it. And I think that's a mistake. So you're up there, you're showing them what the market is so you can best empower them to answer those questions. And because there are people who are on the fence, the consumer gets a lot of misinformation out there and it's very confusing, on top of being scary from a job perspective, furlough perspective. So I love that you're doing that, but tell us about the market. What are you seeing right now? What are you seeing in the market? Because there are people in our industry who are, the sky is falling, the market's terrible. There are people who are excelling right now and have continued to excel. And what are you seeing?
So what we see in the market is the following. We have to be resourcefully realistic, right? When it comes to talking about the market, I'm not going to be overly optimistic, and I'm not going to be chicken little, because the numbers are the numbers, and we're here to interpret the numbers. And so what we're seeing is that the average sales price in the Central Florida area is rising. It rose 6% from May to June, and compared from June 2019 to June 2020, it rose 8%. Wow. So it is a good time to sell. We're still seeing very, very little inventory out there. And if we have agents that are watching that are dealing with buyers, they're probably feeling a lot of pain on multiple offer situations. Why? Because it's a great time for buyers to buy too. Even though there's no inventory, the interest rates are ridiculous. So people want to buy. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been so busy. I think that's the thing that people, if you listen to mainstream media, no matter which one you listen to, it's very, again, chicken little, the sky is falling. And on the mortgage side, the rates are just so ridiculously low. And it continues to be such a positive market. But if you watch the news and all you do is watch the news, then you're going to hear a lot of the opposite.
And that's today. I always tell our agents, we got to look in 30 days, right? In the next 30 days, we're still going to be in a good, heavy seller's market, right? And healthy for the sellers. They're going to be selling very quick at a very high price Buyers are buying at a higher price, but with very, very low interest rates. So, you know, it kind of balances each other out. However, the market that's coming, it's not going to be that, because we cannot ignore the fact that there's 30% of Americans that did not pay their mortgage last month.
Right.
And what's going to happen when they have to pay back that forbearance? Do they even know how they're going to pay that back? Do they know that that's going to be either a one-time lump sum or little by little every month, and now their mortgage payment is going to increase? I mean, you know more than that than I do. But as an agent, are you empowering yourself, right? Is your leadership team empowering you to have these conversations? Because you have to come from contribution, right? I mean, that's our number one belief. We can save people. We can save people from foreclosure and from affecting their credit if they sell their house before they have to pay this back, right?
Right. Tell me about, so industry-wise, and you're just a little delayed, so if it seems like I'm interrupting you, I'm sorry, because I hear you talk after. I apologize. Industry-wise, I think people just need to pay attention to a professional like a Liliana, an Ogla, anybody out there. Do your research, but do your research with a professional. I want to talk about something that you all are doing in your office, which is what prompted my initial reach out. With everything going on, you all have become kind of a hub for diversity and diversity programming and diversity amongst your agency force, your teams. Talk about that, because that you've always had it. I think that you all have always been accepting of diversity, and inclusion has been very important. But you've really gone the extra step, the extra mile. What's going on?
Well, I'm not gonna give you a lot of that, because there's someone else that's in charge of all of that, and she'll come to the show eventually. But I'm going to give you the preview of it. Okay? Can I give you the cliff notes?
Please tell us.
Awesome.
Give us the cliff notes.
So our office is in Hunters Creek, and this is a very, very multicultural office. We have Black people, we have Hispanics, we have white people, we have a little bit of everything. We have people from Morocco. I mean, we are proud of who we are because of our diversity and multiculturalism, and the feeling of belonging. For me, that is the biggest deal in this office. It's inclusion and it's belonging. Why? Because a group of people is going to be its most successful when they feel they belong somewhere. And that's the power of this office. And I swear to you, like, just come in, just walk through these doors, and that's what you're going to feel, right? So when the whole Floyd issue happened, right, when he passed away, and the social revolution that we're into now, our company, you know, our head, Gary Keller, came out with a very firm statement that he was going to build a task force, and that he wanted every region and every market center to have a task force. And we're calling it a social equity task force. And we're now building that little by little. And what does that mean? What is it that we want to do? What we want to do is not just have agents feel like they belong and we're inclusive. And yes, you're obviously welcomed here, and racism is not tolerated in this office at all. But how can we change the way we do real estate? Things like redlining. How can we go lobby on the National Association of Realtors or on our local boards to teach people, right, and educate agents on how to do this business properly without discriminating against others? And the stories that we're hearing from Black agents in our community are very disturbing, very disturbing. So it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And I am super proud that our operating principal, Ogla, is the one leading the cavalry here, because, you know, she's the girl.
She leads the cavalry for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's just so. I mean, kudos to you all for bringing light to that and making that part of the fiber of your office, of your company. I just think it's so critical. Any company that's not addressing diversity and inclusion is missing the boat. And I think that you're right. The social revolution, the social equity is so important. There's just so many crazy issues that are out there that our friends are going through that a lot of times the corporations are too big to even recognize. So big kudos to you guys for doing that.
You know, it's a blessing, and I'm just grateful that I'm in the right place at the right time to make these changes happen, because it's not just about talking the talk. This whole task force is going to be about implementing. This is going to be about action. How are we going to go into our communities? You know, not just lobby on the boards, but what are we doing with our youth? How are we going into communities that are not in a good social standpoint financially, and empower them and talk about money, and how can we, you know, just make them better for the future, right? Like these kids, no one's talking to these kids about money. No one's talking to these kids about investing in real estate, because you don't know what you don't know.
Correct.
You know? So I think it's gonna be super amazing to watch, and I'm just grateful that I'm in the right place at the right time, because sometimes in history you have to just stand in the right side of it. And I think
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was a little unnerving for me to, you know, as a new team leader in this office, to stand in front of our team and say things like racism is not going to be tolerated in this office. I'm watching your Facebook post. The moment I say something inappropriate, you're going to get a phone call. I mean, that's where we draw the line. I mean, I drew the line, and you're going to get a phone call. I'm going to release your license, and you can go work somewhere else. That is okay. You know, but it's not going to be tolerated. Absolutely.
Well, I think we have to take a stand. We have to have a zero tolerance policy and mean it, because that's just one incident. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I have been very proud of our community, I think, as a whole, because I have seen some very, very disturbing posts by agents, and the agency force got rid of them immediately, and I love that. So, you know, you have a right to say what you want to say in America, but the consequences come with it. So I'm happy that our industry takes the lead on that. I have one last personal question before we head out. I try to throw a personal question. When you hear the word hero, who's the first person that comes to mind?
Wow, hero. Well, you know, that's going to be my grandmother. Hands down.
Why?
That's my grandmother. My grandmother was the strongest woman I knew. Every time someone tells me, I just don't know how you're handling this, or, you know, how you're so strong, or blah, 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 I go back to my grandmother. You know, my grandmother was the epitome of strength. She always voiced her opinions in a very kind, loving, and firm way. And that's what I saw growing up. She had to bury a husband and bury a child.
Wow. And
still didn't lose it. And for me, that's huge, because I've gone through, you know, with the kids. I have one kid that's his system is compromised. His immune system is compromised. So when we're thrown with that, you know, I could go back to her and channel that energy and that strength of, okay, guide me through this. How do we do this? You know, and it's always having that problem solving hat on, right? That's why I don't freak out in a crisis, because I already know how I'm going to I have a predetermined reaction to a crisis, for good or for bad. And my predetermined reaction is, we're going to solve it. Then we have a meltdown for like 5 minutes. So we gotta go into problem solving first. And she taught me how to do that.
Beautiful. That's wonderful. I love to hear that. I think that's very cool to say out loud. All right. So Liliana Pickens with KW Legacy. Her website is right there if you want to reach out to her. You want to learn more about what they're doing in the real estate world, buying a house, selling your home. Listen, we got to plug. I got to plug her. It's just such a blessing. That's right. That's right. It's such a blessing when leaders come on and share their journey and their purpose and their why. And so thank you for all you're doing out there, Lily. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted. It's been a pleasure.
See, it wasn't so bad, right?
No, it was great.
Well, tell Oglahai from me. You guys will be back around 3 o'clock. Thank you so much, Lily, for being on the show.
Absolutely.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye.